Let's see if I can close this just a little bit. That's better. Okay. Everything in frame. It's a little bit better. I'd like to forge up while people are hopping on. Let's get the box on first. Right, let's go ahead and that should work with that. What's up, Mule? Maxzilla, what's going on? So we're gonna forge. What's up, Doug? What's up, Dave? I'm happy that you love that chef's knife, and hopefully you really like that. Well, I know you said you like the EDC. I figured you would you dig that. That way you have the chef's knife and you have something that you can carry if you want to as well. So, I went there. What's up from Norway? What time is it in Norway? So what we're gonna do. I used to forge a lot of scrap knives. I did a whole bunch of different episodes back in the days where I was forging scrap knives, and I actually did a few in different live streams and things like that. 1:30, okay. Is that 1:30 in the morning? Yeah. What's up? Oh, 1:30, yeah. What's up, Colt? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a little piece of scrap steel. I went ahead and drew it on a piece of paper and measured it. So the bottom, the longer length is 5 inches, the top length's 4 1/4, and it's 3/4 of an inch tall. I'm gonna take this and we're gonna forge a knife out of it. Now, I'm gonna do a kind of like a little EDC, but I'm gonna do it slightly different. I'm going to go through, and I'm not saying that I'm going to make it like a karambit or anything like that, but it is going to be a ring knife. We're going to profile a little handle. We are going to forge a tail. That tail is going to get wrapped back into itself, and we're going to forge a blade. We're going to see how much of a blade we can get out of about that much of this steel. This is about 1/4 of an inch wide, so it's a pretty big piece. And I was thinking about doing that, but I don't want to do that this week. And I'm going to forge what I want to forge this week. I had this idea pop into my head, and I want to forge it. But I am going to end up doing a mule power knife. I do like that, the profile that you actually shared. What's up, Danny? I'm doing good. So I like that profile that you shared, but I can literally, I'm going to have to pick an episode where I forge like 2 of those or 3 of those, because I can forge that knife in like 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. So I want to make sure that I make like 2 of them, because I have an idea of what I'm going to do with that. But yeah, I am going to do one of your knives. I will be on next week's live stream. And of course, I could forge one of them out of this as well, if I did like a distal taper and all that. But we're going to have fun. We're going to make a ridiculous knife. And the reason why I'm doing something like this is it's a little bit complicated. It does show a lot of different techniques in the process. So one of your knives, it's like an EDC is what I would figure it'd be size-wise. But It's like a drop point, kind of like a drop point hunter or a drop point EDC. If you were in the Discord channel, Doug actually shared the picture of the one that he wants me to forge. So yeah, we're on vacay with the wife, so I'm gonna have to dip. Well, awesome. Let's go ahead and toss this in the forge and start heating it up. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the amount of steel that's going to be the handle from the blade. I'm not super worried about the blade section. We're going to do a lot of forging on the handle. We are going to do quite a bit of forging on the blade to draw things out, but we're going to have some fun with this one. It's a little piece of steel, so this is not going to take very long to heat up. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the little dry erase board, and I'm going to show you what I'm planning on forging for the most part. We got this little guy here, so you don't have to worry about, trying to zoom in on the one that's over on the other side. What's up, Crab? So basically, what we're going to try and do is forge something that has a little bit of a drop point to it, kind of like a little ring knife. It's going to have a bigger blade than that. It's probably going to be something like that right there. And this might taper back a little bit more. But basically, we're going to forge a little tail that's going to come back here. So something in this little vein right here. And I don't know exactly how I'm going to finish this back section right here just yet. I might forge it up into here, but either way, it's just going to be a simple little knife. So, but there's going to be a lot of forging that has to happen to make that little piece of steel into that. And what I did was I drew on my other anvil, I drew the profile of one of my karambits that I have. The last time you made a suggestion, I made a tactical butter knife. As long as it's not a butter knife, we're good. So, whenever I did this, I ended up drawing one of my karambits that I have so that I have a rough idea for how big I want the handle. So, yeah. But I do want to hear your suggestion, Doug. My drink out of the fridge. Everyone needs a tactical butter knife. You better, yep, punch a hole through the tang. So that it makes a loop. I do like that idea, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. By the time we're done with this live stream, it's going to be like 125 degrees in my shop. So, it's hot. I don't know if I'm going to go through that process just yet. But I like that idea. By the way, yeah, that's what we did last week. That is a tactical butter knife. That is how it fits my hand, by the way. Like, it is a very comfortable setup. And that was just forged to shape. I haven't ground it at all. And it just fits the phalanges nice and comfortable. But yeah, tactical butter knife. It's not going to look like a butter knife whenever I grind the bevels and all that, but right now it does look like a butter knife. So we are going to grab our Two Bastards dog head. We're going to grab Two Bastards straight peen cross peen. mainly what we're going to need for most of this. We're going to start off with the valve head. Get you out of here. Grab some tongs. Now I know not to push it as far back. Okay, so let's decide where the blade's going to be. I'm good with it being about right there. Yeah. So I'm going to show y'all the amount of steel that we're going to use to make the blade. That little bitty amount of steel right there is what's going to be forged into our blade. And you'll be surprised at how big this is going to get whenever I go through and I forge it. But for right now, I want to focus on the handle. I'm going to get the handle forged enough to where we have the tail. I'm not going to fold it onto itself. That's going to be one of the last steps. So what we're going to do is we're going to forge the initial profile of the handle. So we're going to forge basically this section to about right here, and then we're going to leave a bit of the tail. I am going to pinch it down a little bit. We're going to leave a little bit of the tail as it is. We're going to forge this whole section, which is a whole bunch of material moving, and then we're going to forge the blade. And then after we forge the blade, roughly, we'll go ahead and start pulling the tang out for the tail, and then we'll go back and work on the blade a little bit more. But we want that fold to be pretty much the last step. And of course, that's just a rough idea. That's not going to be exactly what we're doing. What's up, Squatch? How you doing? Inside of the loop looks cool. Yep. What's up, Steven? Welcome here. It's a grower, not a shower. It's it's definitely going to get bigger, that's for sure. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to show y'all here in just a second. I'm going to put it back in the forge for a second. I don't want it to lose all the heat that it just got, but I want to zoom y'all in to what I'm going to be, like the spot that I'm going to be working on the anvil. If I can actually pull y'all back just a little bit more. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is on this section of the anvil right here, I've actually got one of the biggest sections of it, of the rounded part of it. I'm going to use this section to actually create that transition between the heel of the blade and, let's see, where's the butter knife? All right. So to create this section right here, I'm going to use that section of the anvil to create that transition from the heel down into here. And then we'll go ahead and start profiling it back. Thank you, Dennis. So we're going to start forging there. We're going to be hammering it down into it right there. And we're going to create that little transition. Turn the piece of steel around. goal is to come in here, blade hanging off, hammer in on the spine, and what we're going to be doing is we're not hammering straight down like this at this point. We are going to be hammering back. So we're going to be hitting it towards the face of the anvil, like that. And we're going to be drawing it back into itself, and you'll see this transition really start to form. So that is the goal for what we're about to do. So let's go ahead and grab it. So the blade, the little notch that we forged in, hang that over. And that's how we create that transition. Again, that is the section that we're going to use for the blade when we start forging that. And that's not a very big piece. So we're looking at, let's see here, 1 3/8. So on the actual cutting edge here, it's going to be, it's 1 3/8 to start off with. So we'll see how much of a blade we can forge out of that. It doesn't need to be a huge blade. It's going to be a drop point. So basically, the steel that's up here in this little peak, that's going to get forged down into the blade. We'll be able to have plenty of steel to work with. But now, we're going to go ahead and do that one more time, because I want this section right here, where we pinched it, I want that section just a little bit more tapered. We should end up with plenty of material here. So I don't make my own hammers. My hammers are actually by Two Bastards, Texas Smithy and Supply. They're actually a channel sponsor for all these live streams. So, yeah, there you go. What Duck said. And the steel is 80 CRB2. So we're working with 80 CRB2 for this, and it's about 1/4 of an inch thick. Heating that back up so that we can start working on the handle, but I'm going to be forging that one section again, and then once we get done, once we get done forging that little section, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab it from the blade side and go ahead and start forging the handle from there. We're not going to be, of course, holding the tang the entire time we're forging the tang. But yes, but yeah, 80 CRB2. I think I only mentioned it one time. I typically talk about it like 20 times. But yes, doing stuff like this versus forging a normal just camp knife, it requires you to use a bunch of different, more blacksmithing techniques rather than just bladesmithing techniques. A lot of bladesmithing, you are typically taking a piece of steel that's already flat, you're forging it, you're keeping it flat as you're forging it, planishing, doing stuff like that, but for the most part, you're just forging the profile. For this, we want to really focus on how we forge the profile of the handle. We want to focus on how we forge the ring and lengths and size and stuff like that, and material management as we're doing it is a huge part of this process. as opposed to just going through and forging a profile that you're going to end up using a 2x72 to clean up. Whenever I get done forging this handle, there's not going to be a bunch of cleanup on a 2x72, so we have to forge it as close to finish as possible. Let's see here. Are you putting a twist on the ring or keeping it flat? I don't know just yet. We will see how that goes. I have not thought of that just yet. So I'm going to go to a little bit sharper section. So we're good about right there. So now what I can do is come in, do a little bit of the profiling of the tank. So that's going to start giving us the little swell for basically your 3 fingers. We're going to have a little bit of a swell, and then it's going to go into the ring section. So now I can go ahead and a little bit of planish. Okay. Now I can go ahead and grab it from the blade side, and we can work on the actual tang section. So basically, the section that I just got done forging was what is basically going to be this section right here. Now, of course, again, this is not to scale to what we're going to forge. This is just a rough idea. But we just got done forging this section to here. Now we need to forge this section going back to where we're going to isolate the tail. And then we'll end up forging the blade, which is going to be a pretty steep drop point with a nice little curve up. Almost more of a leaf shape than anything. How would a 2-finger ring fill in the hand? So you could do a 2-finger ring knife, but the only downside to that is you don't get a much, I guess you could call it dexterity with it. You don't get as much leverage with it. So we have, I'll show you one. This was, so give me 1 second, I'll show you. So Little Black Ironworks did this one. So of course it's not exactly a full-blown ring knife, but you can get your finger in there. But of course he's got smaller fingers than me because he's a lot younger than me. I could easily use like pinky size through there, and you don't get a ton of dexterity with it or leverage with it, but you can use a blade like this. It's useful. I just use it like this. These are great if you put like a lanyard here, but yeah, that's about the size of a 2-finger version of it. We got Little Black Ironworks made that. It's a knife that goes on a little debit card pocket carry sheath that I have. What's up, Mark? How you doing? Looks like you got a bunch going on there, Mark. Yeah, and this knife right here is going to be a cool little simple knife too. So yeah, that little knife right there, every once in a while when I'm not at work, I carry it. It has a little wallet sheath, and it goes inside this little sheath there. I put my cards and everything inside it, and that'll be if I'm going out and I still want a knife on me. I'll take this little guy with that little knife. So if y'all don't know anything about him, he's like 14 years old. It's absolutely awesome. Okay, let's isolate what's going to be the tang, or the tail. One of my coworkers for Pepsi just drove by in his like 1400 horsepower. I think it's a 69 Camaro. It's a 69 or a 70. Yeah, like 1400 horsepower car. Just drove by. Okay, so this little area right here is what's going to end up being the tail. What I'm looking for is for it to be from this, what I call a finger choil, to the pinky area to be at least the width of this. And of course I can always check against my profile that I have on my other anvil. I'm pretty much right in line with what we need it to be. So now we can end up forging this out just a hair. Now of course this profile for this section right here is going to change a little bit as we start forging, but we needed this initial movement, so we got that out of the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch this down just a little bit, and then we're going to stop there, and we're going to start working on the blade, and then we'll continue working on the handle after that. What's funny is right now, this basically almost looks like the same thing on either side. It's got this little paddle on one side, a little swell, and a paddle on the other. One paddle is going to be the blade, one paddle is going to be the ring. The way that I look at this whenever I'm trying to decide how much material to make for the ring, I'll sit there and I'll dissect it in my head, how many lines I can get at about a 1/8 of an inch to about 3/16 of an inch out of that, and then I will just take and I'll stack it on its end, and that'll give me a rough idea how much tail that I'm going to have to be able to loop around. My eye measurements work out really well. I've been lucky there. It makes blacksmithing and bladesmithing way easier on you. So that area from this little notch right here back is going to be our tail. So now that we have that forged, we can go ahead and forge our blade. We're going to get our blade to about 75% done, so we are going to go ahead and forge the profile, pull the bevels down, and actually have that part pretty close from there. But you're going to see, remember, right now we're about 1 3/8 from the heel to the tip, and we're only about 3/4 of an inch tall right here. We're going to see how much we can get out of that. And what's funny about stuff like this, it's one of those type of forging processes that you get to see basically the finished product at the end of it. So whenever I forge something as close to finish as possible, you actually get to see the bevels forged into it. You actually get to see the full profile. You get to see a lot of that stuff. Or typically, you have to wait until something's ground, cleaned up, and all that stuff to really see it's going to end up looking like a blade. But for this, a lot of that stuff's going to already be done during this process. So that's one of the cool parts about doing projects like this versus just a normal EDC that I might forge. But I think this is going to look cool. I think it's going to be a cool finished project, and I don't know, I just love stuff like this. I love creating things that I haven't done before. It's probably one of my favorite parts of knife making. And that was one of the things that I wanted to do during this process. Make sure y'all are still in view of this. I was hoping I could forge a little bit earlier. That's awesome. All right, so simple profile change. Down into it. Drop that down just a little bit. Switch hammers. Go with the cross peen. I'm actually going to switch to a ball peen. Which is probably not a hammer that y'all use very much. It's going to let me isolate that heel. And it's going to let me draw this section down and start forging in those bevels. But y'all probably don't use a ball peen ever. Now back in the heat. But I'm going to draw the heel down and do a little bit of that with the ball peen, and then we'll go in with the cross peen. Of course, two bastards, take this 50 supply. This is called a fat peen. It's a lot broader than a normal cross peen straight peen. Let's see what y'all are typing here. Y'all got a whole bunch going on here. Paintable home enforcement for the project can be, which is always the goal. I love doing little simple projects like this that are just something that you can mess around with that doesn't require you to have a whole lot. What's up, John? What's up, Tornado? Putting on my Mick Hammer pants. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, so I like using pretty much all the different types of hammers. But again, a lot of people don't use ball peen hammers unless they're trying to texture a blade. But if you want to go in and pinpoint a little area on a small blade like this, this is pretty useful. What I should tell y'all is I'm not hammering straight down. So I'm going and I'm hammering, you can see this. This is the cutting edge over here. I'm hammering down and out, down and out, down and out, down and out. Flip it to the other side, down and out, down and out, down and out, down and out. So that I'm directing the flow of the steel as opposed to just going straight down. These hammer blows are at an angle. So I'm pulling back like this, so you're actually directing the steel to go more than one direction, because the way that a ball peen works, you hammer and the material goes everywhere around the head. But you can pull with it and actually draw the material kind of where you want to go. But we are getting a bigger blade here, getting a little bit of length. We're going to get more when we switch to the other hammer too. But right now what we're trying to do is pinch the material, pull it down a little bit, expand it, and make that piece of material larger than what it is, so that we can switch to this hammer. Because what was happening is, and this will be different whenever I get the hammer that Frank and I are talking about. And if you didn't know that, the two bastards, it's Frank and Nita, they're the two bastards. So I've got a hammer that he's making me that'll make it a little bit easier for stuff like this. But this head was bigger than the whole entire blade. So as I'm hammering it, I'm basically covering the whole entire blade section. So this is letting me pinpoint a few things to get it to expand out so that I can then use this and mess with it. And if that is too wide, I've got a narrower straight peen as well. So that is roughly what our blade profile looks like right now with all those ridiculous dents. So now, next heat, we'll switch hammers. And we will, hopefully, whenever I switch to the other hammer, I'll be able to draw out a little bit of length and a little bit of height. Because what we're going to do is we're going to use the straight peen to forge out a little bit of a distal taper to the tip, and then the cross peen to forge out that taper towards the edge, and then we'll end up cleaning it up later. This is going to be a brute to forge knife, so if there's hammer blows on the flats of the blade, I don't really care. And if you're wondering what I mean by that, so if there are hammer blows up here, I don't really care, because I'll be able to clean up the blade itself. But if there's actually like texture up in the top right there, I honestly don't care, because it'll still look good. Alright, love that it's thinner now. It's a lot easier to heat up. You get to work it a lot faster. So straight peen, get that length out of it. So a little bit more length, and then we'll heat it up one more time and pull it down a little bit and get some height out of it. So right now, If I can find my little ruler, let's see how much we've grown. So right now the blade is 2 inches. About 1 inch and 7/8 actually. So about 1 inch and 7/8 from 1 inch and 3/8. So we've grown quite a bit in size. And that's still not fully how big it's going to be. Let's see here. What's up? Plunder Shop from Missouri. In fact, all 3 of the original Jurassic Park movies are available for free on YouTube. That is a fun fact. So we'll get that caught again. I still have plenty of material on the flats or towards the spine of the blade, so I can pretty much get quite a bit of extra size out of this. What made you choose my stuff for forge? So Duck Rabbit actually suggested to do one of your blades, and he sent a picture of it in the Discord for the Rivers Experience, and I was like, yep, I'm getting in making one of those. Yep, I think it's going to be cool. Now, I don't do many Scandi grinds or saber grinds. What I might end up doing, slightly different than what you did, is I'll probably go ahead and forge in the bevels as opposed to grinding them later. So I'll probably go ahead and forge in the bevels, but I'm going to do your profile. And I'm just going to change it up a little bit for what I do. He'll make some really good. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Now, what's up, Mr. Franchi, the OG? Okay, now we made a big old paddle. So now we have a big paddle. We're going to end up changing this profile a little bit on this next heat. So right now with the profile that this has, you know, I'll show you real quick. So right now, we have a whole bunch going on here. Some people will try and fix this right now where the blade has kind of bowed up a little bit. So now we're at a weird profile. Don't worry about anything that's happening right here. Don't worry about this. All we're focused on is the blade. Get that blade to about 75% done, then we can screw with all of this section after that. Don't try and do them at the same time, because we're going to keep messing with this and it's going to keep screwing up this section until we start focusing on that. I see a lot of people who waste time and hammer blows trying to fix everything as they go. Just focus on the section that you're trying to work on. Get the blade where you want it to go. If you're working on the blade, get that area to where you want it to go. If you're working on the handle, get that area to where you want it to go. Don't try and do the whole entire knife as you go, because what's going to happen is, as you're forging certain things, as you're putting tapers, as you're putting bevels in, you're moving material everywhere. So it's not just going to move your blade material, it's going to start pushing your tang up, it's going to start doing all kinds of crazy crap. Don't worry about all that. You're going to end up making everything look pretty whenever you start doing the final phase of it. Because what happens is, you're just trying to, on the initial phases, just squish all the material to their points. So squish all the handle material in its kind of handle area, squish all your blade material in its handle in its blade area, and then you can blend it all together later. Because it's going to absolutely screw with everything as you're going. Good, that's the goal. So that's good. Thank you for letting me know that it's actually in a good spot. Okay, let's go ahead and grab this blade. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch to the other side of my ball peen. Use it for a second. So this head on this is slightly rounded, like a round side of a rounding hammer. Just let me do the same things that I would do if I had a rounding hammer on here. Okay, I'm going to heat it up one more time because I want to put a little bit of a curve on the belly of this, and then we'll go ahead and start messing with the tank. And right now, as you look at this, I'll show you, as you look at it, Ken, this is just a rough reference. As you're looking at it, this whole entire section right here is all the way up here. So it's like this. If you can imagine, this is the tank. It's like that, where it goes up at an angle. It doesn't come down. It doesn't come down like this. So we won't have to worry about that until we actually move that down. Y'all see that in a little bit. But right now we got to put just a little bit more of a swoop into the belly of the blade. Again, this is just a rough reference. It is not exactly how the blade is going to turn out. Watch the blade end up turning out exactly like that. It's going to be hilarious. So just a little bit of massaging, and we got this up here. All I'm doing is just hammering the tip back, flattening it out, hammering it down, flattening it out, hammering it down, flattening it out. The whole point behind flattening it back out is so that you don't end up basically mushrooming this blade section out. What I mean by that is if you looked at it this way, it'd be almost like an I-beam. All the material that's going down the edge would open up like this, and then what would happen is, because that's so wide, whenever you turned it on its side and you forged it flat, all this stuff would just fold over the blade, and you would end up with a cold shut in here. So what would happen is, whenever you started grinding that edge, that little piece that was folded over would end up flaking off, and you would end up with a dip where that steel was on either side. What's up, Mom? How you doing? But yeah, right now, nice blade profile. There's a good little drop point profile. I'm good with that. Bevels are forged in. They're not super clean, but I'm not worried about that just yet. As you can see, the bevels are already on their way. We just don't want to sit here and mess with this just yet until we actually get the handle situated, and then we can clean up and planish and all that. But for the most part, blade profile is roughly where we want it. So now, let's go ahead and see what our size is. So our cutting edge is 2 inches and 1/8 long, and we are 1 inch tall. So whoop, 2 1/8 long from 1 3/8. So we got that length. We got 1 inch tall. It's actually a decent sized blade. Now I can go ahead and grab it from the blade side and start working on the handle. Almost. I'm going to end up correcting one thing. You'll see that once we get it hot again. So I'm going to go ahead on this next heat, and I'm going to kind of correct the spine profile, or I guess it would be this way. So I'm going to go ahead and take it, because right now the blade's all the way up here, the spine's up here. I'm going to take and put an arch into it, and then start working on the handle. That way we're at least roughly in the right profile, and then we'll end up going through and massaging it. Miss Rivers is out here on the side of the shop looking at our yard. Want to say hi to them? Say hi to them. They're like all the way down here. All the way over here. Say hi. And hello. Okay. So now we're going to hang it back over the edge again. Now we have our blade roughly in line. So we've got our spine that comes back, and of course as we profile this section here, it'll drop down. But you can see now we actually have a decent blade and handle ratio and everything like that. And everything's starting to look real good here. We've got a nice heel that drops down. So as we're holding it, our finger's not just going to be straight onto the cutting edge. So, starting to get that profile that we want. Go ahead, toss it back in the forge.
It looks like a seahorse.
Huh?
It looks like a seahorse.
It does look like a seahorse. Nisha said it looks like a seahorse. I might name this profile either seahorse or seahorse in a different language. Something that sounds a little
More aggressive?
aggressive than seahorse. But yes, it does look like a seahorse. And once I fold that tail around, because if you look at the
It's
rough
a seahorse.
idea, it's basically a seahorse. once I fold the tail. It's basically a seahorse.
What kind of handle are you gonna do?
So this is going to be,
Those little bitty, like, woody pieces.
there will be a little wood piece on the side of it, maybe, but it is going to be it's a ring knife. So it's going to have, I'm going to forge a tail and fold it back onto itself. So kind of again like this.
See, like
So-
that, it looks like a knife. If you turn it up like this,
It's basically a seahorse. But yes, so it's going to be a ring forged around onto itself. The thing that you got to be careful with on this is being able to forge that ring section and have it set up to where it doesn't pinch your hand. So if I just took it and I forged it back onto itself and just had it end flat onto the belly of the handle, or the belly of the tang, what would happen is whenever you have your finger in there and it's got a little bit of springiness to it, where that little mouth is, where it actually comes up and touches, that little area right here, that little area would pinch your finger because it would open up and close. So you got to figure out a way to fold it back onto itself so it doesn't have a pinching area. Ring horse. Sea knife. So let's go ahead and start forging out this little area. I'm going to switch to the other side of the anvil. So basically, knock over hammers, what I'm going to try and do is keep this little bump that's right here, notch this area, round it down into this, and have it come back up into that area right there. So I've got to take this area and pinch it out long enough to be able to loop it back onto itself. So that's what we're going to be doing. Make sure that we're actually pointed at the area that we're going to be hammering on. So what I'm doing is I'm going to use this section of the anvil, which is slightly more rounded than the rest of my edges. I'm going to use that to create that transition where it comes back and then goes up into the ring. I'm going to create another little transition like I did my finger choil, where it goes from the heel of the blade up into the handle. I'm going to create another one of those where it goes from the handle up into the tail so they can fold over onto itself. It kind of does look like a kiradashi, but it's going to be, hold on, I can show you something. So some of the scrap knives that I make are like this. So this is of course, full hand length, one of my scrap knives. This one has distal tapers on it and all that stuff. But the blade that we just forged is actually slightly bigger than this blade right here. But I make these out of a lot of my scrap steel. And they're super chill, super simple and functional full hand neck knives. I'll do a little lanyard on it, but these make like perfect if you do a neck knife. They're like the perfect little size to be able to grab, pop it out, use it to cut whatever you got to cut, and then put it back in its place, but without it being like a tiny knife, because a lot of little neck knives have a handle on it. It's like a 3-finger handle. I wanted something that was full hand, like that, And I've made different modifications to this profile for a while, but that right there, I make a lot of these. This one's going to have more of a cool handle profile. It's going to have the tail that comes over and all that. But yeah, I do a lot of different blades like this. I love making scrap knives. One of the things that I'm having to focus on here, and that I'm correcting a little bit, is as I'm forging, I don't want this piece to twist like this as I'm forging it. It needs to be really square to the spine. So you got to really focus on how everything is forged on it. Show you, see if you can see it. So like right now, as I'm forging, I'm primarily hitting on this other side over here. It kind of has a bevel going to one side. You got to correct that as you go. So you got to correct it as you go. You can't just let it twist on itself, because if you do that, it's not going to look right whenever you actually create the ring, and it's not going to be comfortable on your finger. Horse of the sea. Just saying Google Translate, looking for the coolest version of seahorse. I love that. That's funny. Alright, so let's keep correcting this, making sure we're good here. Nice and square. Yep, we're good. Okay, now you can really see that transition that I was talking about. So we have our handle profile that goes to here. That's going to be the first 3 fingers. And then this is going to loop around back onto itself right here. But that's that little transition that I wanted back here. So our ring can loop back onto itself. I'm not worried so much right now about how this ring is going to loop. I just need to get this area stretched out. I want it to be pretty thin, so we're going to get it as long as possible. Again, a lot of the things that you're thinking through whenever you're trying to make something like this, it's not a whole bunch of normal bladesmithing techniques. This is like a different version of a blacksmith knife. And with the way that we're forging out this tail and doing that, you have to really think about material management whenever you make something like this, because we're taking such a small piece of steel and we're having to think about, okay, how big of a blade can we get out of this little bitty thing? And then we think through how much of a handle can we get if we pinch the area that's going to be the finger choil a little bit more, we get a little bit of extra length. If we bring it back and pinch the area that's going to be the area that the ring finger sits on, not the ring that the actual ring of it, but your ring finger on your hand, where that's going to sit. If we pinch that area down a little bit, is that going to give us a little bit more material to stretch out? Okay, cool. Do I need to forge it slightly thinner? Go from 1/4 of an inch down to 3/16 or 1/8 in order to get extra length to be able to get the final result that we're trying to get to. All those things come in play whenever you're actually doing something like this. And this is not something I've ever forged before. This is a new profile for me based on other profiles that I've done, but you have to think through, it's your first time doing it, okay, which hammers am I going to use for certain reasons? Why am I changing to that hammer? Why did I use the ball peen hammer on this blade if I haven't used it on other blades? Those are the things that I want y'all to understand as I'm going through this process, not just watching me do a thing, but the reason why I'm telling you why I'm using a ball peen hammer and how I'm using it is just in case you have one and you haven't tried it before and you want to do something like this, you'll understand my thought process and the process of doing this. So you can see how much of a tail we already have there. I'm really focused on keeping it square. Now, of course, is it super flat? Nope. But it doesn't have to be because we're not at that phase yet. That's a little bit better. But anyways, we're focused on keeping that edge nice and square. We're keeping this nice and clean. We're not trying to put a bunch of crazy dents or anything like that to it, but keep everything nice and square, nice square edges, and everything even and tapering back. Okay, we need to go about another, I'm betting that if I get about another 5/8 of an inch to, whoa, let's move this back over so y'all can actually see what the heck I'm working on. So as we go through and forge this, I think if I do about another 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch out of this, I think it'll be enough to loop around. I want it to be not just big enough for my ring or my pinky finger, I want it to be big enough for my index finger. So, I mean, really, I just need it to be slightly bigger than that right there. And we'll be fine, because that fits my ring, or my pinky, doesn't so much fit my index finger, or my pointer finger, index finger. I don't know why, yeah, anyways. Mr. Pinto, what's going on? We are forging a ring knife, kind of like a blacksmith slash neck knife slash thing. That's what we're forging right now. Make sure y'all can actually see this better. We're forging a seahorse. Sarmiento, how do you say seahorse in your native tongue? Could y'all hear it that time? Could y'all hear the car? I think it sounds like a monster. But yeah, I don't know if y'all could actually hear it over the forge and the fan and all that. But yes, so this profile right here, we're going to end up folding this onto itself, making a little ring. It's pretty chill. I probably have enough to forge over, but I'm going to do it just a little bit thinner. And I think I'll be good there. The cool thing about a ring knife is the ring can always be slightly larger or slightly oversized, but you don't want it undersized. You don't want it too small, because if it's too small, nobody can use it other than like a little kid. You can have it slightly larger because it's just really there for retention. If you look at some ring knives that you get online, their loops are pretty freaking large. So I mean, you could easily like oversize it a little bit. You really don't want to undersize it. So something to think through there. Betting that that's probably close enough. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna try this out. We're gonna try that length and see how that looks, because I can always straighten it back out. What I am going to do before I fold it onto itself is I'm going to go ahead and planish it a little bit, because if it does work, then I'm cool with that. So I am going to planish it just a hair and then fold it onto itself. Tactical drop point, ring tail camp knife. That is a mouthful right there. This is one of those points where having scrolling tongs would be super helpful. Let me go ahead and unzoom y'all just a little bit. Point y'all down at the old horn down here. Yeah, I think that's gonna be enough. Okay, so I do wish that I had scrolling tongs. I'm gonna tell you right now, I am going to order scrolling tongs. That is gonna happen. So that's a must now. Found another Morfarch in Welsh. Okay. Actually, I'm not opposed to that. And it's Welsh. So that's bigger than I want it to be. As you can see, so that's roughly where we're at right now. That is larger than I want it to be. So what I might do, might take a little bit off the tail. I'm trying to think through what I want to do here. I have a way that I can mess with this. Okay, I know what I'm going to do. I think what I'm going to do is take the tail and flatten it some in this little section here. Flatten it and roll it onto itself and bring it up onto here. What do y'all think? Oh, they'll be beefy. Yeah, if I get them, they're going to be nice and strong. Just trying to decide how I want this to go. I know that it's not exactly where it's going to end up being. This section, what's going to end up happening is this section would be cocked back just a little bit, and this section would drop back into, as you can see, like right now, it's too far forward. So what would happen is this whole entire ring would kind of scroll back a little bit, and this section would end up right up here. So right in that section right there. So I'm going to open it back up. Like, I'm cool with the ring being slightly larger. I've always got to figure out where the heck the camera's pointed. So I'm cool with the ring being slightly larger, but I don't want it to be so much bigger than the rest of the profile. Could you live stream? For some scrolling tongs maybe? No, so when it comes to a lot of the tools, like these right here, I like supporting the other makers who make those things. So I like supporting my hammer makers, of course, Two Bastards, Texas Smithy and Supply. I like to support the hammer makers, the tong makers, the people who make those tools. I want to support them. I don't want to make their things. If I can help the overall knife making community and blacksmithing community, I'm going to do that, as opposed to making my own versions of them. Could I do it? Sure. Will I do it sometime in the future? Probably. But I like being able to help support other makers within this craft. That is one of those things that I think is absolutely awesome. And they support me. They help me out. I get good prices on the tongs and stuff like that. So it works out as a good give and take. But I like to support the people who make the cool things. Yeah, so something to think about there. The reason why I do some of the things that I do. So let's go ahead and stretch this back out just by pulling it like that. everything back up. Okay, now what I said earlier that I'm going to do is I'm going to take and flatten this section right here, and that's going to end up folding onto this section right here. And we're going to see how that looks. If it looks cool, awesome. If it doesn't look cool, awesome. We'll change it. That's, again, one of the best parts about this is we'll just figure it out until we're done figuring it out. This should be a good angle for y'all. We're going to be hammering here. So we are making a, what do we call it? A tactical, like ring neck knife thing. Basically, I'm making a mixture of a neck knife with a blacksmith knife with when I pull it back out, I'll show you. Tactical drop point ring tail camp knife. That's what it is. It's a really long name. This little guy. Okay, now that I'm going to be doing it this way, I am going to go ahead and heat it up one more time. I'll heat it up one more time, and I am going to go ahead and planish the tang, and then we'll go ahead and loop it over. And then what I'll do is whenever I'm working on cleaning up the blade, I'm not going to use this style of tongs. I'll use ones that just grab the side of the blade or the handle, and then go ahead and forge the blade and get it all lined up and all that. One question, I can never forge out, let's see here, I can never forge out or figure out what the benefit of Doghead's hammer is. So when it comes to Doghead hammer, this is the easiest way to show you. For one, all the weight naturally falls forward. So you don't use the back side, you use the front side. But what I like is this. So one of the other hammers that I use a lot, my Fire Creek Forge hammer, your knuckles are right by the anvil. So you cannot work on top of the steel that you're forging. You pretty much forge from an angle or an angle. You can't really forge here. You risk hitting your knuckles or getting your knuckles too close to hot steel. This gives you all the room, gives you space here. Away from it, you can forge on top of the steel, on top of the anvil, all the way around. It gives you that extra height. And some doghead hammers are even taller than this. And if you take the house-made gnome hammer forge one, you're way off the anvil for this. Way off. Again, it also automatically indexes the head down. But like that right there, you can really forge on top of whatever you want to do, and that's the benefit of that. Hopefully that was helpful. Okay, let's grab this thing before that gets way too hot. Probably already is hot. Okay, that is too hot for planishing, so we're going to let it cool down just a hair. You do not want to planish steel with it that hot. All your hammer blows would just absolutely put big dents into the steel. Okay, we're planished. So now we're going to go back in the heat and we're going to loop this around onto itself. Refocus y'all back onto the horn here. Let's bring y'all back just a hair. So now we'll be able to go on this again. Let's see here. Did make a snail today. Always on vacation, but I do have a tire power hammer. Nice. That's gonna be awesome. Who are you getting the power hammer from? Want to go through and push this tail up so that it sits up into this area here as we forge it over. It's going to make it a lot easier than trying to fix that later. know, could you easily just let that work its way down onto the handle and do it itself? Sure. But if you set it up for success and you go ahead and you bend it over like that, flare it out, I guess you could say round it out, it'll go ahead and sit down a lot easier. Now that's pretty cool. We really don't have like any forging things that happen around where I live. You have to pretty much go to Dallas Fort Worth area to go to a single hammer in. That's why I do them here in my shop. So I am going to end up flaring that out. As you can see, we're starting to lay it down right there. I am going to open this up a little bit more though. Heat it back up. So we'll end up opening the area, open that eye up or that hole up. What's up, Craig? How you doing? That's where I say, if you set yourself up for success, if you go ahead and kind of move everything in the direction that it's going to end up going, it makes itself flow a lot easier. It's probably already warm again. Yep. This is where scrolling tongs would make my life a lot easier. Go back in. So what I'm going to end up doing is we're going to put it on here. I'm going to take it and I'm going to actually pull it back out a little bit and open it back up. Super lucky. It's at the Virginia Institute of Blacksmithing. Yeah. So a lot of people over there, man. Northeast and East America has like some of the, dude, there's just like so many blacksmiths in that area. So many shops, so many forges. Like it is just something else up there. Put it on here. Go ahead and pull it open a little bit. So what I'm trying to work on right now is just getting the ring to where it's a little bit rounder. So like right now it's kind of like an oval. I don't want it to be an oval. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'll probably put it on the end here. Actually shift y'all a little bit more. So put it on the end here, and I'm probably going to hammer just out in front of it and try and bring the end up just a little bit. So take this section and move it up just a hair, and then try and round it out. And I'll be real with you, I could easily leave it how it sits right now and just go ahead and pull it over, and it'd probably be comfortable, and it will definitely look like its intended use, but I just want it to be perfect. Saying Virginia's north, part of the north, it is part of the east though. I said east, northeast. So I've got friends that live in like Pennsylvania and Maine and stuff like that. But I also have friends that live in Alabama, Georgia, Virginia, stuff like that. When my family came over here from Europe, they all landed in that area. Okay, so now, whenever I take and I pull this forward so that this area tucks up into that little area, I think I'll be where I want it to be. Whew. What's up, Bob? How you doing? We're still out here forging. Still out here forging. Working on a what was the acronym for it? Let's scroll back here. 12 hours. The TDPRTC. TDPRTC. Tactical drop point. Ringtail. So tactical drop point, ringtail. Camp knife, that's what it was. Ringtail camp knife. Making knives and watching me. Heck yeah. What would be funny is if I said, me too, I'm making knives watching you. I'm like, where's the camera hitting that? Gotta make sure the tab's not crooked, right, Duck? All I was doing there, out of frame, was just making sure that the little tab that we folded over wasn't offset to one side or the other. Still looking pretty good. I will end up shifting the tab over just a little bit to one side because right now it is further over here than it is on the other side. But I'll end up doing that with tongs. But that is a nice round ring right there. That's what I wanted. I wanted a super smooth transition here. I wanted it to kind of come out around here, flow in, but so that this section right here actually flowed in smooth into there. Not bad for a little bit of forging. And what I'll end up doing is I'll tuck this in just a little bit more because you can see there's a slight gap in there. I'm going to end up tucking that in a little bit, and then what I will end up doing is I will drill a hole maybe about an 1/8 inch hole in there, or maybe even smaller, but I'll drill a hole in and I will peen a brass pin into that little area and give it an actual mechanical bond there, so that doesn't have a chance to pinch you or anything like that. So this piece will end up being pinned to the tank. But now we can go ahead, leave the handle as it is, switch tongs, and finish working on the blade. But for right now, that bad boy is what we're looking like. I think that's going to end up looking really cool when it's all said and done. Like, that is just absolutely awesome. So now what we're going to do, we're going to just clean up the blade profile a little bit, make sure the bevels are centered, stuff like that, clean everything up. And we will have ourselves a tactical drop point ring camp knife. Ring tail camp knife. Tactical drop point ring tail camp knife. I really like how this is turning out. Okay, so let's change the angle one more time. Point y'all back at the anvil. So, like I said, we're going to be focused on the blade at this point, and just clean that up. We don't really need to do much to the blade. All we're trying to do is center everything, do some planishing, calling it good. I think this is going to look absolutely freaking cool when it's all said and done. Really excited about this one. I wonder if I grab it with these tongs, if that will actually fit. Nice. So I can actually grab it with these box jaw tongs because it fits that whole entire ring. Come in, clean up the profile. So I'm going to drop that heel down just a little bit more. I've got a little bit of extra meat in the heel right there. So I'm going to bring that down just a little bit more, and then we'll smooth it out. I don't want to go too crazy because I don't want to change the profile too much. But I have a little bit of material to bring that heel down, so I'm going to do that. TDRCK, Tactical Drop Point Ringtail Camp Knife. Haven't done anything with a skeleton handle. Yeah, I mean, I've done knives that have skeleton handles, but I also do blacksmith knives that are completely handleless. I wouldn't say handleless, but very lightweight. This is one that I still need to go through and finish profiling. But yeah, blacksmith knife with no handles or no handle scales. But yeah, I've done neck knives that are skeletonized a few different times. So it is for the LRDCK. Let it loose, duck. Let it loose. Okay. So, there's our profile. I went ahead and dropped that heel down just a little bit more. We're nice and centered. You can see the cutting edge down the center. You can see the bevel on both sides. We got our distal taper forged into the tip. Our bevels are nice and centered where you can see that point come up right there. I really like this profile. So that right there. I think the only thing that I would change to this is possibly putting more of an arch to the spine. So actually taking this section right here and kinking it down. I think that would look a little bit better. And right now I'm thinking through how I do that. So I might end up doing it. I got an idea. I'm gonna heat it back up. Okay, let's see here. Thinking about doing a new series. Sorry if I just blew out your eardrum sneezing. One more time. I can't ever sneeze once. Okay, so I'm thinking about a series on my channel called Blades of Chaos, which would be weird style combos that have no business existing. That would be pretty cool, actually. Scottish basket hilt katana. I'd watch it. I'd watch that. Not actually moving the steel, just flattening the bumps. Correct. So, rough cut, whenever you are doing the planishing phase, you don't want it to be super hot. Plus, this is ADCRB2. I could cold forge this if I wanted to. What I'm going to end up doing, I'm going to grab it with the other tongs and heat it back up again, but I'm going to take and I'm going to forge this section down, and it should put that arch to the spine. But I'm going to show you something real quick, because I want you to actually see what's really happening here. For one, the camera kind of plays tricks on what you're thinking you're seeing. So we're forging on it, 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 forging on it. It looks nice and cold. You can see there's a little bit colder here, not there. If I was to turn off all the lights right now, this whole entire area right here would still be hot. But with this right here, I could still be working this. With the heat that it is right now, planishing, cleaning, slight adjustments, all that stuff. It does not need to have all that heat into it. If it was super hot, if it was still a bright red or almost that orange color, whenever I go and I do a slight hammer blow, it's going to put a big dent into it. So what we want to do is let it cool down a little bit so that you do hammer blows are just cleaning things up, not putting big dents that you're going to have to planish out later. Hopefully that's helpful. But yeah, so that's something that I think about with that. Like whenever you're going through and you're just cleaning things up, and you don't need to have, you know, it's super hot or anything like that. Yep. Especially with ADCRB2, because with ADCRB2, you could cold forge it completely. You don't technically need the heat. The heat does help it move and things like that, which you could completely cold forge AEC RB2. But what I'm doing is I'm letting it get cool so that whenever I'm going through and I'm just cleaning things up and massaging it, it's not actually putting big dents that I gotta fix later. So, yeah. Yep. Put y'all back over there. Should only take another like 30 seconds for this to heat up. We're going to use the dog head for this. We're going to use the box jaw for this. We're not messing up the ring that much. I'll tell you right now, I am risking messing up the ring by doing this though. Always readjust the ring. So I'm going to do that one more time. And I think I'll have a little bit of the arch that I want. And then I'll probably have to clean up that ring a little bit. Just randomly started sneezing out of nowhere now. Alright, let's grab it, move up one time, let's see here. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay. Let's see, where do I want to? Just want to clean up that a little bit. If I don't have to clean this up on the 2x72, that's preferred. All this just because I wanted a little bit of arch. I think it's going to look better, so let's see. So sometimes these little things that I'm doing right here, if I didn't like it so much, I'd be going through and doing this off camera and adjusting it. But I figure I have y'all here right now, so might as well just show y'all what I'm going to do to make it exactly how I want it to look. I could have easily left it how it was, but it wouldn't be aesthetically as pleasing to the eye to me as I want it to be. So I'm about to undo the ring put an arch into it, and then redo the ring. Just a personal preference. That's what I want because that's the way I want it to look. So, put y'all back over here. It's awesome having you here, Randy. All we're going to do now is just kind of mess with the profile and have it look exactly how I want it to look. So we're not going to do much different than what you already have seen so far. All that work, and all I'm going to do, the reason why I straighten that back out, is I want to put some arch into this section right here. I'm going to heat it back up. We're going to do that, and then we're going to mess with the tail again. Point y'all back over here. But yeah, typically I would take this time, or we would wrap this up, and then I would go through tomorrow and toss it in the forge, massage it a little bit, actually give it what I wanted, and then maybe show y'all a picture of it or something like that. But again, we're here. I might as well show you what I'm going to do to make it look exactly how I want it to look. Hopefully y'all prefer it that way. And the fact that it's only going to take me a couple of minutes to do it is kind of like perfect. Let's see. I grabbed these tongs because I was hoping it was going to pinch it better, but we'll just use these. A little bit, but not near as much as I want. He said that hurts. Okay, let's see it. What about a Uli bread knife? Full serration? That would be kind of crazy. So heat that back up. I can only imagine, well, so like if you see some of the Ulus that have like quite a bit longer blades, do that with serration, I could see that. I could see that being a thing. It'd have to be a pretty tall one in order to cut through bread, unless you're just cutting through baguettes or something like that. Okay. Do you see what I mean now? See how much better that arch looks? Like, that is absolutely something that just needed to be there. Like, that was a must. I think that flow is going to be just perfect now. So we're going to heat that tail back up and get it back where we need it to be. Yeah, it's super hot in here right now. Yeah, and the anvil, like, my hands are really desensitized to heat. But yeah, it's probably about 100. I'd say it's probably about 110, 120 degrees. If I felt it with the back side of my hand, it would probably feel really crazy. If I put like my leg against it, it would probably be ridiculous. But my palms are really desensitized to heat. Anything into a balisong? I agree. Okay, so let's take this. Just modifying it right now, playing with it, getting everything how I want it. Got a little rollover on the side from holding it with those other tongs. Don't want that on there. Okay. All right, that's looking good. Now I just need to work it back onto itself again. Punch all back right there. Bring one of my lights over here. There. A little bit easier to see. Chisel ground dagger. That actually would be kind of cool. Could you imagine what that would look like? Now, if you do a chisel grind dagger, do you just do one bevel, or do you chisel grind both bevels? Because you could have it almost looking like a rhombus. Like if you cross section it, just do chisel all the way to, so basically a full flat grind to one side. I don't even know how that would work. I guess you can't technically do that. Could you do that? No, you couldn't do that. Or would you just have a peak and have a flat side on one side and just a peak on the other? I'd be interested to see how this actually plays out. Okay, we got it looped back around. Now I just need to twist that up into that spot, a little sweet spot. And we should be good. So chisel grind is the right orientation on this. Yeah. Yeah, so I'd be interested to see how that would go. It's like because what I'm wondering is if you chisel grind it, basically the point would be pointy, but in order to chisel grind it like this, no matter what, you're going to have a big section. So you would have, because if you just, say you did a chisel grind like this, you're either going to have a flat section, or if you tried to chisel grind them together, you would just grind all the way through the blade to end up with a sharp edge. If you do chisel grind, you would end up with a flat on, you wouldn't have a cutting edge, basically is what I'm saying. Because if you push those edges together, unless you did like a chisel, flat, chisel. Yeah, so 2 saber grinds. I could see that. We're actually going to run out of propane on this bottle. That's crazy. Of course, I have forged like 6 knives with this one bottle. Say 6 knives. Full-blown forged to finish knives. Not like little bitty projects. One of them was basically a sword. There we go. Why did y'all tell me y'all weren't pointed at the thing? Get that tab straight. Okay. That is what I wanted. So I'm gonna grab them with the other tongs. Of course, now I've got to clean the blade up just a hair from holding it the way I was holding it. But this, see that arch? That arch in that spine? That is the thing that I wanted it to have. All that extra work just to have that extra flow, I feel like that flows better than the way it was before. Nice ring, nice arch to the spine. You know, sometimes you got to undo things that you did just to have it flow how it needed to be. I think that was absolutely, like Doug said, I think it was worth it to just get it exactly how I wanted it to be. I think that's perfect. So now, go ahead and put the blade first in, just straighten the blade up a little bit from holding it with the tongs. Only a couple of hits, and it should be fine. Put your back up over here. You better believe the tab is crooked, Duck. I made that tab crooked for you. And it's going to stay crooked. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. It'll stay crooked. It's not going anywhere. Always crooked. It's always going to be crooked. The slope animal, you like that? The funny thing is, the people that watch this after the fact, they're not going to actually see the comments. They won't see the live chat. They're not going to know what we're talking about. sure everything's straight. Everything but that tab. Alright. Any of the rest of the fine tuning I'll do with it cold forging. But now we're straight. But you see, like this piece right here, where it's kind of off to the side just a little bit, I'll adjust all of that through cold forging. I'm not going to mess with it right now. And you can see right here, my cutting edge is just a little bit off. I'll correct that. Go ahead and do that, because all I got to do is take the blade and move it over. But all I'm going to do for that, instead of forging it, is I'm going to heat it up, put the handle in the vise, and I'm going to take my tongs and just grab the blade and move it over. So I'll show you what that looks like. We're gonna raise you up, point you over here, zoom you in. Don't you love being able to zoom in on things? Got the old chopper, take that, put it down here. So we're going to put, my hand looks huge right now. We're going to put the knife in that vise with the cutting edge up. We're going to take the tongs like this, grab the blade, and just cant it over. Just slightly twist it. You don't need to forge at this point. My bevels are nice and clean. I just need to adjust it. Hey, there's 8 pixels. 8. Of course, I honestly have no idea how many pixels it actually is for y'all. Let's see. Of course, I'm trying to figure out the best way for y'all to actually get a view of this. let's pull y'all back out. Now the cutting edge is down the center. So now where we need to be, I was able to straighten it just a little bit, so straighten the actual blade a little bit. Of course, I'll do the rest of that through cold forging tomorrow. A little bit of adjustments, and all I'm going to be adjusting just this little area here. But I think that was a success. I think that's going to be a super comfortable knife. We forged this neck knife. Went ahead and did a little blacksmith style little ring knife. So we're calling it Tactical Drop Point Ringtail Camp Knife. I went ahead, forged bevels, forged in the bevels, forged in the full profile. I'd already done the ring and had it pretty much done, but I wanted a little bit more arch to the spine. So I undid the ring, reforged the spine, adjusted it, cleaned it back up, and put the ring back on. But a full forge, pretty much to finish, Tactical Drop Point Ringtail Camp Knife. And if I wanted to do it as a neck knife, I mean, that's not too crazy lengthwise, but it's still a full hand knife. I would grab it and show you that I can fit my whole hand on it, but that's spicy. Little spicy. I don't want to do a burn through fit up with my hand. Nope. But I think that's actually really cool. And I think bringing this little tab up onto the handle is going to be absolutely awesome, especially once I drill through it and put the pin in there and it becomes a permanent fixture. Well, the cool thing about something like this is it really doesn't take much work on the 2x72. Quench in water, so just go right into the bucket, just real quick. But yeah, I think it turned out really cool. Is it exactly like the random little drawing that I did? No, but it's close. Let's see. So, little test sketch, and then what we actually forged. So this was me trying to give you all an idea of what we were going to make, and that's what we ended up with. Look at the shadow next to it. But yeah, I think pretty close to the little test sketch. So not bad. I've never forged one of these. This was just me trying to play with something. Now, I've done blacksmith knives and I've done a lot of different forging projects, but I think that this one, with how clean it is and how smooth that ring is, just works really well. And like I said, I'm happy that I put that arch to the spine. And if you can't see it, there's a little line from here to here. There's a little shadow difference between here and there. That's the actual plunge line. It curves from about right here up to about right here. So it actually rounds into there. It's on both sides technically. Can't really see the shadow of it very well there, but a little line that goes right here. So it just kind of goes down into the blade. So I think that's pretty successful. And here's what I can do though. I wish I had one knife. I was looking for one of my knives that is like close to that size wise, but none of them are like, I guess you can see it. So full handle knife. Full handle knife. I think that's going to be right on the money compared to how this one fits my hand. I think that is right on the money size-wise. Because I mean, that fits my hand perfectly. Okay, so let's go ahead, toss this puppy into the forge and let it anneal. Bring it up a little bit to temp and then turn the forge off. I tell everybody that pretty much every live stream. Again, if you're annealing your steel, let the blade come up to temp a little bit. Shut the forge off before it gets up to 1600 degrees, because your forge, if it's running at 1800 degrees and you bring the steel up to 1600, then shut your forge off. It takes a while for your forge to cool down. So your blade will go up to like 1750, almost 1800 degrees, and then start cooling down. You just want it to be 1600. So bring it up to where it starts actually showing some color in there, and close the forge off, turn it off, and it will come up to about 1600 degrees in that process. Thick ring-tailed camp scalpel. So that would be the TRTCS. TRTCS. Thick ring-tailed camp and scalpel. And I do make those. I make scalpel EDCs out of like scrap pieces of cutoffs and things like that. If I've got Damascus or if I've got some little pieces of steel, I make a lot of different scrap like blades and stuff like that. Like wonder, typically have a whole bunch of these random, we'll show y'all something here. So I take scrap pieces and I make a lot of little knives like this out of them. That's a double distal taper little EDC. That's actually forged from these little neck knives that I make. It's a little 3-finger neck knife. I actually forged one of them into this and just expanded everything out. So I've got those. But yeah, I make little scalpels. This one's out of a little piece of, I think, Farrier's brass. Yeah, I make a bunch of these out of scrap. I made this one a while back. It's just been sitting in that little bin. But yeah, I make a lot of these and do a bunch of different things to them. Let's see here. So another little EDC kind of scalpel profile right there that I'm making. That one's going to have a cool little piece of cut off that I have from one of my other handles. But yeah, I do a lot of these little random scrap builds. show you what one of these looks like finished, it looks like this. So this is just slightly bigger than this, but it's basically the same thing. Let me show you. It's just slightly bigger version because I wanted to scale it up a little bit in size. But that is what these little guys look like when they're done. And these are my little neck knives. I make these here and there. It's like a perfect little neck knife. Little wrap handle. This, like I said, is just a slightly bigger version of it. We got literally all kinds of little things that I make that y'all see here and there, but every once in a while I'll just put it on the website, sell a few of them. I don't really show them on videos very much. I think I made one of these on a video one time. It's the same thing for whenever I do these styles of knives. I'll just go ahead and make them off camera and then, you know, sell them, do stuff like that. A whole bunch of little random blades like that that get done and y'all don't ever see them. I've got on the wall, so all the ones that are back here, like up here, these are all knives that y'all don't really ever see. So these are two of my bigger camp knives. ADC RB2. Y'all don't really see me actually do many of these. These are going to end up with jimping on the spine, of course, swedges, all that stuff, but y'all don't really ever see these blades because they're just ones that I do whenever I'm working on stuff. All of these little chill EDCs. It's one that I'm working on. That's actually got a hollow grind in it. Drop point. That's a double distal. Ferris rasp, little knife. Another version of it. So I mean, there's a lot of knives that y'all don't see that I work on and make off camera. You know, these are all blades that end up on my website, or they end up on my tables whenever I go to knife shows and stuff like that, because I'll make a lot of these smaller knives so that it kind of offsets some of the more expensive knives that I make. Because so like whenever I'm selling something, like whenever I finish this one right here, whenever I finish that and have it all done and everything, a build like this, once it's done, sells for about $1,000. You have to have a way to offset that on your table. So not every knife on your table can be $1,000 to $2,000. I mean, you could, but it's not something that you want to do. You know, you got to have some sort of an offset for the blades and all that. So I'll take and I'll make a whole bunch of like $150 to $200 knives and go from there. do like $150 to $200 so that people have those price points that they could buy from, and then I'll have like $750 Damascus chef knife or something like that. I do a lot of these other knives so that people have the ability to buy one of my knives without spending a ton of money. But yeah, we were at about 2 hours and 45 minutes. I think it's about time for me to go inside and eat dinner, seeing how it's probably like 9 something. But yeah. Do you have a table, Blazin, Texas? So yes, I do. I do collaborations with one of my friends who also has a table. So we do collaboration builds, and we both show our stuff on there. But it is a collaboration type table. It's not just me. It's some of my builds are collaboration builds, and then some of his builds. That's what we did in this last show. So you got to be careful with the whole table thing. You can't split tables at these knife shows unless you are collaboration builds, or you have those on the table. So we have those. Yeah, I will have, whether it be me, whether I be with him or I'm with Texas Farrier Supply. So I'll either, because I might be doing a booth with Texas Farrier Supply and Frank and Nita with Two Bastards, Texas Smithian Supplies, because I'm probably going to be doing some hammer-ins with Texas Farrier Supply and do a little bit of teaching with them. So I'll probably do some collaboration stuff with them, and then I might be at their booth, or I'll be at Chad's booth, or figure something out. But yeah. By the way, JP, man, that last knife that you did, I liked it. The random person that did the idiot comment, that was really out of pocket. That was stupid. But everybody else seemed to think it was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty cool. I think it turned out cool. And I need to do one of my canister builds. So I'm going to recreate the one where I did the copper and the cable in the can. So I'm going to do another one of those, but a larger version of it. So it's going to be it'll be copper, cable, copper, and then cutting edge material. Or it'll be copper, cable, copper, 15 and 20, and then probably 80 CRV2. Oh, he probably deleted it because you hit him with like the most, everybody comes here and is positive, but you're being kind of a jerk. Thank you for being here. You have an amazing day type comment. Oh, I'll be picking your brain for a lot of different things. Like, especially with the copper stuff that you've done. Yeah. So, I think it's going to be cool. It's going to be a bigger can. It's going to be chock full of all kinds of fun stuff. But it ends up looking really cool whenever you do the cable in there, because it almost looks like there's a fingerprint. All of the cable steel looks like a fingerprint in the blade. It looks awesome. But yeah, I'll be doing that here relatively soon. But yeah, okay. Before I get into a whole conversation, because I could talk to you in the Discord, I think I'm going to end up having this conversation more with you in Discord. Copper sword, if I can get some of that. Yeah, if we can get some of that Dennis Tyrell 13 to 20 million view copper sword views, yeah, that'd be nice. I would dig some of that. Man, if I was him, he would have probably 500,000 subscribers if he just did nothing but copper builds. It's ridiculous. People love those builds that he does. It will be a more complex design of yours, Neil. Your profile will be the basis for the actual design, but I will be doing like a forge to finish with a distal taper in the tang, full distal to the tip, forged bevels, all that stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna go in here and eat some food. Y'all have an amazing week. Thank y'all for being here, hanging out, doing all this stuff. Man, it was a good night. It was a good bit of forging. We definitely made a better knife than what I thought I was gonna make. So I'm really excited about that. Y'all have an amazing night. I'll catch y'all on hopefully Tuesday this week. And if not, it'll be Wednesday or Thursday. We'll see how that goes. Guys, y'all have an amazing night. Bye. Bye, Mom. Love ya.